Things I thought were normal growing up rich with photographic evidence. We all know how moms have diaper bags, right? This was mine. It was a Birkin 30. Let's just say my mom was iconic and she was the OG Birkin mom. Here is my sister's diaper bag. We each had our like corresponding colors so my mom didn't get it mixed up. This here is the watch that I learned how to read time on. I thought it was a very normal watch at the time. It was cute. I really liked it because it was pink and it had Minnie Mouse on it. I didn't think it had any value on it until... Okay, are you ready? Yeah, bye. Oh my gosh, this picture screams that sound like, Daddy, I want a pony. This was me. Please don't come for me. I know I was kind of ugly. I went through a horse girl phase and I was like, guys, I really want a pony. And that's what I got. This photo I actually won't let you see, but this guy was Steinway and he was the love of my life. I loved him so much. But yeah, I'm gonna end my video here. If you guys didn't believe me, this is me at like age 3, I don't know, wearing the watch I was talking about earlier. I love you guys. Bye.
Things I thought were normal growing up rich. It used to confuse me so much, but growing up it felt like my parents didn't have a job. I clearly know this is false now, but when we were little and we go to school and our teachers are like, what does your dad do? I was literally like, my parents don't work. And was like, so how does your parents make money? Birthday presents were another crazy thing. For my 9th birthday, my grandparents gave me a Cartier watch and I wore it every day to school. It got to the point that teachers were commenting on it because one time I was in a viola lesson and my viola teacher was like, wow, one daughter wears a Cartier watch and the other wears a Rolex. However, I was so confused. Like, what are you supposed to reply when your teacher says that? My 16th birthday, I also got a crazy amount of Van Cleef. When I say crazy, I mean like 21-year-old Chloe would still think that's actually insane. Low-key wish that I had a YouTube channel at 16 or my TikTok because I just know my 16th birthday haul would have been so iconic. It would have popped off. Also never had a job growing up, which I actually do think is quite common for Asian kids. Parents were always kind of like focus on school, focus on piano and tennis. I feel like the way they motivated us to do well was kind of not normal. I'm not saying other parents don't incentivize their kids because I do feel like that is pretty common. Like for example, this is what I got for graduating my piano diploma, and when I graduated top of my class I got like a bonus. I think I still would have been motivated to do well in school regardless, just because that was kind of how they raised me. That is just some of the things that I thought were quite normal growing up rich, but in hindsight they clearly weren't. I said it before and I'll say it again, but growing up spoiled is not necessarily a bad thing, but growing up a brat is. You can already see the TikTok comments being like, but you are a brat. Love you guys, bye. Things I thought were normal growing up rich. I always wondered how my parents weren't broke. I literally thought they were both unemployed. Now that I'm older, I understand that my dad's an investor. But when I was a kid, I never saw any one of my parents go to an office or go on a business trip or anything like that. In fact, on my sister's first day of preschool, they picked her up in a Rolls Royce and I think they got so many weird stares from everyone else in the school that when it was my turn to go to preschool, they never did that for me. Because none of my parents had conventional jobs, we were always traveling for months in a year. When we were in like 1st grade, we skipped a whole semester of school, which looking back on is kind of crazy because we still had to pay full school fees. And then when we did go on trips, we always took our full-time nanny, so it didn't matter if we were flying private or staying in like a castle in Scotland, she was always gonna come with us. In school, I felt like all the popular girls either played netball or soccer or basketball and I had to play tennis. And when I asked my parents why I couldn't play netball instead of tennis, they said it was because the other sports were cheap. My mom told me because tennis is usually a solo sport or in pairs, it's more expensive to rent a court, the equipment is more expensive, and just everything was more costly. Some other rich people activities my parents made us do was skiing, horseback riding, and shooting lessons, which was a weird one. I actually really like that one, like clay pigeon shotgun shooting. I've also never had a sleepover in my life, and I don't necessarily think that this is related to me growing up rich. However, I do think because my parents don't have a usual job, they had so much free time that they could be super helicopter strict parents. So you know that super rich kids audio where it's like parents weren't around enough? That I think was false, at least in my case, because my parents were always around. Guys, I kid you not, I used to feel so dumb and low-key embarrassed that I didn't know that my parents had a job when I was little. So I remember one time in class we had to like draw our parents' occupation and I drew my dad playing chess. That's all I really saw him do. I also think because growing up I never saw my parents working, every time somebody would ask me what I wanted to do when I was older or my plans for a job, I would just straight up tell them I don't want to have a job, which I obviously know is such a privileged position to be in, and I'm so grateful. Love you guys so much. Bye. Can I girl math a $6,100 Van Cleef bracelet? Of course I can. Always, I have my dad's handy dandy financial calculator, and that's how you guys know this is legit. Key to Van Cleef girl math is that you have to use the CPA method. And if you guys are new here, CPA stands for cost per Alhambra. Okay, so if a bracelet is $6,100, we round it down to 6,000, and then we divide that by 5 to get the cost per Alhambra of $1,200. Compare that to the cost of a vintage pendant, which only has one motif, and this is going for $4,050. If one motif costs $4,050, the actual cost of a 5 motif bracelet should be $4,050 times 5, which is $20,250. This is only $6,000. So taking $6,000 divided by $20,250, that is like a 70% discount. 20% of $20,250 is $14,175 of profit. Let's not get into the nitty-gritty of Van Cleef price increases, anywhere between 5 and 15% per year, which effectively beats inflation, therefore making these a no-brainer investment. You have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you girl math a Van Cleef bracelet like a pro. Once again, anything is possible with girl math. What I spend in a day as a stay-at-home daughter living in Singapore. I started off the morning at Cartier with zero intention of spending any money. I promise I just wanted to restring my bracelet, which is technically free, but obviously one thing led to another, and next thing I knew, I was spending $5K on a pair of earrings. Okay, but technically I used $1,000 worth of vouchers, so I only ended up spending $4,250 at Cartier. I then went to Imperial for lunch. It's my best friend's birthday lunch, so we just did something casual between 4 of our close friends. We ordered shark's fin, which was so delicious. I promise it tastes a lot better than it looks. Lunch ended up being around $800. After that, I went to Rolex with the birthday girl because she needed to resize the watch that she just got as a gift, and that was complimentary. And then we went to Marmalade Pantry for some desserts and sweet treats and ended up spending around $25. I then headed home and I took my parents' car, so I'm counting transportation as free along with everything else I spent because I charge everything to my dad's credit card. I love you guys. Bye. I want to sound ungrateful, but I think my parents bought me fake Van Cleef. And before you guys come for me, hear me out, because I know what Van Cleef looks like, and I can guarantee you this is not normal. Normally bracelets are 5 motifs, and this only has 4 clovers. Like, they don't have the little pearls like around the edge. The chain is different, and the worst part is, look at the clasp. It's literally going to be so obvious that I'm wearing fake Van Cleef. Like, I can't wear this out of the house because it's literally embarrassing. It literally looks like I picked it up off AliExpress. Thought it ended there. It doesn't. Look at these earrings. They're so wrong. Like, something about them just looks so off. They also gave me this necklace. But yeah, if you catch me with fake Van Cleef, it's not my fault, okay? I'm sorry. Happy birthday to me.